is up, everybody? This is Taylor Namahoy coming to you from my room and my little tree over there. And welcome to my YouTube channel, everybody. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you hit that notification bell so that you do not miss anything from me. So before we go on with this video, I just wanted to say a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of you. Can y'all believe it? We are almost at 2026. I cannot believe this, y'all. Soon we will be hitting New Year's Rockin' Eve, baby. As you can tell, if you've been following me for a while, I have had a pretty big choir season this year, and I want to discuss it a little bit more fully on this channel. So last year, I did the top 7 choir concerts of 2024. So I participated in concerts with my former college concert choir, and then I joined a chamber choir that same year as well. And this year was pretty much no different. This year I participated in my former college concert choir, and I did something really, really, really special with my chamber choir, which I will get to very much later. And one thing I wanted to say is I unfortunately am no longer with my college concert choir. I recently stepped down back in May, so that I would have more time to focus on my own artistry. But nonetheless, it was really fun. I did that choir for over 2 years. I still perform with my chamber choir, and I recently just joined a new church choir because my family and I have switched churches, so I decided I would serve God by singing in the choir once again. As of 2025, I have participated in every single choir in my community. Today, I'm going to be counting down my top 6 choir concerts of 2025. Technically speaking, I actually participated in 8 of them, but 2 of them don't really have videos, so I will mention them as honorable mentions. So the honorable mentions are Handel's Messiah Part 3 and the Deddington Te Deum. So I performed Part 3 of Handel's Messiah back in January when the mother church was getting a new building, which was a new church hall, and the music director decided to put up a big concert for everybody for the celebration of the new church hall opening. So I got to be a part of that, which was really fun. In the summer, I participated in the main concert for the music festival of the Palouse, and this year we performed the Deddington Te Deum, so I don't have concert footage, unfortunately. It's a really, really good piece. It's about a half an hour long. This is a piece that I would encourage you to go listen to on Spotify or on vinyl or wherever you listen to your music, because it's pretty epic. So whatever you're doing right now, please go ahead and sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Maybe have some coffee or tea, maybe a mocktail from Crystal Light, and let's go ahead and count down those concerts together. Number 6, Choral Fest 2025 Awake. So I did have a Choral Fest in October, but it's not the one in Spokane. So if you guys don't know what a Choral Fest is, I'll go ahead and explain that to you guys for a little bit. So a Choral Fest is essentially a concert where there's a bunch of different choirs that come together and sing. So they perform some joint pieces or some individual choir pieces, and then there's some hymns sung by the audience. So this year for the joint pieces, we performed Awake the Harp by Haydn and Er Schallet ihr Lieder by Bach. And I have performed both of those pieces before. Back in 2022, I performed the whole creation with my old church choir, and that was with my dad. And then I also performed the Er Schallet ihr Lieder back in music camp of 2019, so I was in high school at the time, and so it was very lovely to perform it again. I haven't really sung the B section before, though, because back when I did it, it was performed by a quartet. This time, it was both my chamber choir and my former college concert choir. Not everybody got to sing that part. Then usually all I did is I was just a part of my chamber choir. Our set was based on concerts that were coming up for that season. So we promoted the Butterfly concert, which was I Never Saw Another Butterfly, which you will hear about a little bit later. And also the spring concert called Come Jesus Come. And then a very exciting special concert of Amal and the Night Visitors, which was the first opera written for television. I'll go ahead and let you listen to that for just a minute.
Walnuts and quinces, apples and raisins, nutmeg and myrtle, medlars and chestnuts. This is all we shepherds can offer you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you kindly, thank you, thank you, thank you kindly.
Citrons and lemons, musk and pomegranates, goat cheese and walnuts, dates and cucumbers. This is all we shepherds can offer you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you kindly, thank you, thank you, thank you kindly.
Hazelnuts and chamomile, mignonets and laurel, honeycombs and cinnamon, thyme, mint and garlic. This is all we shepherds can offer you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you kindly, thank you, thank you, thank you kindly.
Take them, eat them, you are welcome. Take them, eat them, you are welcome too.
Yeah, isn't that very, very lovely? It's really, really nice. I encourage you to go listen to the opera. It's a very delightful piece, and most importantly, it is God-honoring. I also want to give a huge shout out to one of my students who also participated in the Choral Fest with me this year. Her name is Lucy Points. She was in the Logos High School choir, and she's been a student of mine for 2 years, so this is her second year, so I'm very grateful I was able to sing in it with her. So huge shout out to Lucy right there. Number 5, we are coming down at Sing for Joy. So we did a choral fest back in Moscow again, and last year I did a choral fest in Spokane with my college concert choir. We did those same joint pieces that you're already hearing, which was the Martin and the I Got a Key. And then we also performed the same set that we did back in Spokane, which was Nun lob mein Seele den Herren and Be Still My Soul, which is an arrangement by Dr. Erb, and then we did My Soul's Been Anchored in the Lord by Moses Hogan. It was a really good concert. It was just a great honor for me to be in both of them for this choral fest. We also showed a sneak peek of the Mass in B minor, which that will come a little bit later. I'm not going to get into it too much right now because this is a lot of the same stuff from the Spokane Choral Fest, but if you do want to check out a video of me at the ACCS Northwest Choral Fest in Spokane, I will have a video linked up here and also down below. And then if you want to see what it's like singing in the Moscow Choral Fest, I'll have another video of that here in the description box below and right up here. Okay, coming down to number 4, which is You Come To, the Chenanaya Summer Music Institute closing concert. Okay, so this was a lot of good stuff. So this was a concert where we didn't really have an orchestra. We just had a piano player, and we also had a double bass player as well. So this was my last CSMI concert before I would graduate with my Kodai certification, so this was my last year of teacher training. I officially have a Kodai certification. I have completed all 3 levels, so I first started in 2023. I received it this year. I was just so blessed to be a part of that group. It was just so amazing and all of that. I already miss all my teachers, and it was good for them that they came back and they did more training and they got better, even though they have degrees and they have much more experience than I do, which is amazing. Level 3 was just very bittersweet, and I just had the most great 3 summers of my life. I just can't thank Dr. Erb and Jared Ritchie and Sarah Davis and Diane Engel and Aaron Snow for helping me. And don't get me wrong, even though I have a certification, I still have a lot of work to do. I'm currently working as a private music teacher with my own business, and I would just appreciate your prayers as I grow it a little bit more. As Jerry Ritchie once said, you gotta make them glad they came. That's what you're supposed to do for your students and for the whole classroom of them, and I was glad that I came. Okay, so now on to the concert now. So what we did is we did an arrangement of Simple Gifts, which I actually did another arrangement of this from the Christopher Parkening hymn book, Sacred Music for Guitar. So if you want to check that out, I'll have it up here and down below. But that was also a really fun arrangement that we did. And then we performed the Frostiana by Randall Thompson. And this is based on poetry by Robert Frost. If you want to know what my favorite poem from him is, it's Nothing Gold Can Stay. There is a movement that I have sung before, and it's the last movement called Choose Something Like a Star. This was actually one of my very first pieces that I have sung in choir, because when my family and I moved to our town in 2018, there was a music camp that the community was putting on, and it was my first time ever singing in a choir. And we sang that particular piece, Choose Something Like a Star, with a bunch of high school kids and everything. I was 14 at the time, so I was about to get into high school. And now I'm singing it with a bunch of adults, and I can tell it's very nice singing with singers that have a little bit more experience and everything. It was just really, really, really nice. And then, after I got a shout out for completing level 3, we got to sing The Road Home by Stephen Paulus. This was a piece that was released in 2002, and I found out that it was sung at Jimmy Carter's funeral, so I have to give a big rest in peace to him. And then this is a piece that I had to practice with myself for conducting and everything, where I had to give out different cues and everything to sopranos and altos and tenors and basses, and it's a piece that'll definitely will make you cry. And it's also a really good piece for high school graduation and college graduation, maybe even at a wedding too, because when you get married, you enter into a different life path. And then we did a set of musical settings of Shakespeare sonnets, so it kind of seemed like we were singing a bunch of madrigals and everything. Dr. Herb said this to us at the orientation dinner. It's very rare that he chooses secular repertoire for his concerts, because usually these concerts have to glorify God and everything, but he wanted to do something a little bit different, so that's why he chose the Shakespeare sonnets. And not gonna lie to you, I really, really enjoyed these sonnets. So these were written by a very famous jazz pianist named George Shearing. So you have all these jazzy harmonies. Apparently, madrigals and jazz music just go well together. I highly encourage you to go listen to all of them, to the Shakespeare Sonnets by George Shearing on Spotify or wherever you listen to music, because it's very, very delightful, even though the topics are about love and falling in love and all that kind of stuff, so I highly encourage that as well. So that was definitely the whole CSMI concert, and then we ended with Zion's Walls by Aaron Copeland. I actually sung this one at my very first Choral Fest, and it was in Moscow, and we sung this with my old church choir, and it was really good to sing again. It was just such a great opportunity to be trained with all these adults, and I will definitely miss them. Number 3 is Blessed Are They That Mourn, and This is the NSA, Cantori, and Concert Choir concert. So this was in the spring. And not gonna lie, there were some pretty tricky pieces in there to sing. So what we did was we opened with Brahms, and it was the very first movement of the German Requiem. So I've never sung that entirely, so this is my first time singing the first movement of it. And it's very delightful. And as we were singing the harmonies, like during rehearsal, Dr. Erb was just like, "Oh man, don't you like Brahms?" And then everybody laughed and said, "Yes, we do." And it's about 11 minutes long, but it's very delightful, and the harmonies are amazing, and it will make you cry a tear or two. There's a set by Cantori that's being done. They end with Lacrimosa by Mozart. That's a very famous movement from the Mozart Requiem. And then concert choir comes back up to do another set, and we begin with chorus from one of Bach's earliest cantatas to date. So he wrote this in 1714. It's called Weinen, Klagen, Sorgen, Sagen, if I got that right. I hope I did. This one has to do with weeping. So the theme of this entire concert is "Blessed are those that mourn and cry." And the interesting thing about this cantata is that Bach used it later for his Crucifixus movement in the Mass in B minor. That's a big work that we will be talking about a little bit later. Please stay tuned for that. And then we did O Vos Omnes by Ginastera. This one was a pretty intense piece. This is the first movement of two other movements that Ginastera wrote, and this was based on the Lamentations of Jeremiah. Then we sang Lausus, Fremuit Spiritu Jesus. This is a Renaissance motet by Lausus. And if you've been in choir for quite a long time, you're probably thinking like, oh, it's not that hard, and the most important thing, is it's delightful, you know what I'm saying? But no, that is absolutely not true. There are so many things in there that you have to pay attention to in order to sing this piece well. First of all, pay attention to your director's conducting, all right? Because what Dr. Erb is doing here is he's not just conducting for timing and stuff. He's also conducting for harmonic changes, because there's certain harmonic changes around the piece that you have to be aware of, especially when you're singing these Renaissance motets and everything. Then you have to pay attention to the Cantus Firmus, which is sung by soprano 2. Another thing is you have to sing it like you're in a chamber choir. So the most difficult thing was this could easily be sung by a smaller group of people. And Dr. Erb didn't do that. He made everybody sing it like the whole 75 people choir, and we had to interpret it like it was a chamber choir, and that was really difficult to do. And the nice thing is we ended up pulling it off, and Dr. Erb was satisfied, and it was just a wonderful piece, even though it was talking about Jesus weeping because Lazarus died. That was like his best friend, but then eventually Lazarus was able to rise from the dead. Okay, and then this last piece that we sang for our set, this is an 8-minute long piece, and we had to memorize the whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing. So this is called When David Heard by Dienerstein, and it was composed in 1975. And I have to tell you right now, this was probably one of the hardest a cappella pieces that I've had to sing. Like, you can think of pieces like with the orchestra that were very difficult for me to sing, and it was not that easy. First, you had to pay attention to the dynamics, because there were some very specific dynamics. The diction had to be super clear. I mean, that's obvious for every piece, but this one in particular, had to be good. And then another difficult thing that you have to worry about is later on, there is an 8-part split. Yeah, I'm talking about the whole shebang. Soprano 1, soprano 2, alto 1, alto 2. So I sang the whole alto 2 line, and tenor ones, like, they have to go, like, super high, like, up to a B flat 4, and there was times that they would cross over the alto 2, so I felt like I was singing tenor there. Like, it was not that easy. So this piece is based on the death of Absalom, so that's David's son, and David hears about it, and he's like, oh, my son Absalom, my son, and he's just so upset. And I remember reading that in the Bible, and I was just being very, very sad about it. So that's what the whole piece is based on. I encourage you to go listen to it with this concert footage and everything. You can listen to it on Spotify, and you can listen to it through this concert footage. Like, it's really, really, really that great. Finally, what we ended with is we did not end with a mourning piece. We actually ended with a joyful piece. This Bach piece is based on joy and laughter. I'm talking about 110 by Bach, Unser Mund sei voll Lachens. This one was also pretty difficult to sing because there's also the constant timka, timka, timka rhythm and the triola rhythm, the triola, 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 timka, timka. And it's a little bit for your body. Like, when you're gonna sing those kind of melismas on the timkas and the triolas, your core has to be engaged the entire time. Like, yes, you need to use your breath, you need to use your support, but you also need to use your core. So, overall, this was an amazing concert. I highly recommend you go listen to this music because it is just fantastic. I was able to end my career with the NSA Concert Choir on a very good note, so I miss singing with them. Alrighty now, coming up at number 2 is I Never Saw Another Butterfly, performed by the Canisformers Chorale of Collegium Musicum of Moscow. We did this concert to honor the 80th anniversary of World War II, and we opened with the Captives Hymn, which it was a hymn written by Margaret Dryburgh and Nora Chambers. So I actually did a cover of this hymn on my guitar when I was prepping the music for this particular concert. So if you want to check that cover out, I will leave it right up here in the description box below and the link up here. I did this cover to honor Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated back in September, so rest in peace to Charlie. This was the hymn that we sang as a processional, and I highly encourage you to go listen to it with the voices as well. This is an original hymn that they wrote. And both of those ladies were prisoners in the Japanese war prison camp in Sumatra. And what we performed after the processional were these songs of survival. And what these songs of survival were, these were arrangements of classical music written by these two women. And these were arrangements for vocal orchestra. Not real instruments or anything, just their voices. Because all they had in that camp were just their voices and their memory and some thin paper. And that was absolutely it. No piano. They had to make these arrangements based on what they remembered. And I believe that there's also a movie called Paradise Road starring Cate Blanchett. This movie is about the two women there. So you can definitely come see it if you want. But I have not seen this movie myself, but I definitely hope to in the future. So we began with the Largo movement by New World Symphony. I would say that's probably the most famous of the vocal orchestra arrangements. And we also did Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring by Bach. And then we also did Danny Boy. This is the arrangement that we ended with. So we originally were going to do two arrangements, which were Grieg by Mourn and Allegro by Mozart in C major. But that unfortunately did not work out because we just didn't have enough time to prep for them. It was physically exhausting, it just wasn't clicking right, and so we had to replace them with two Wild Rose and Danny Boy. And I'll tell you why it's beautiful. Like, why these vocal or orchestra arrangements were beautiful. It was because they were prisoners, but they were still able to have music in their jails, even though there might come a time where they will most likely die. And then after the applause gets done, we have a cello and bassoon duet. And I have one question to ask about that. It's that who knew cello and bassoon would work together? Well, cello is played by Dr. Tutino, and the bassoon is played by his wife, Mrs. Tutino. And I gotta say, they work really, really well together. Like, it starts off with a cello solo, and you can tell how big of a professional Dr. Tutino is. He knows how to make that instrument sing. And as Christopher Parkening would say, he knows how to sing each and every musical phrase. Same thing with his wife. She's able to interact with her husband on the cello, and they complement each other so well. And not only do they complement each other, they do it musically. And that is what makes a moving musical performance. So please listen to their entire performance. Like I said, I have all the concert footage linked below. And then finally, we sing I Never Saw Another Butterfly by Charles Davidson. These were musical settings of poems written by children in the Teddertseen concentration camp. And I also wanted to point out that my choir director, Dr. David Erb, he sang this for the very first time when he was just 12 years old. We also had students go up on the stage and read the poems for us before we started singing. I would say the readers were from ages roughly 9 all the way up to graduating senior. We started with the first poem, which was Teddertseen is Full of Beauty. That was the first movement that we started with. And then we had Man Disposes, God Disposes. And then we had the third movement, which is Teddertseen. And then we have the very famous I Never Saw Another Butterfly. The butterfly is supposed to represent freedom. These kids never really had a proper childhood. Most of them pretty much died, and then only a few of them were able to survive. And so the butterfly to them was a symbol of hope. It was a symbol of freedom. That's why they mentioned the butterfly. And I wanted to point out my personal favorite movement, which is the 7th movement, and that is called On a Sunny Evening or On a Sunset Evening. And I'm not gonna lie, this kind of gives me a little bit of Super Mario Galaxy vibes, so if you've played that game as a kid, you would understand. This movement in particular, this one is just absolutely beautiful, and the harmonies, man, oh man, they are just absolutely gorgeous. And these kids, they want to be able to fly, but they may not know how. And it ends with this line: if in barbed wire things can bloom, then I will not die. And then we ended with the bird song. So this is the final movement in I Never Saw Another Butterfly. So it kind of ends, we start off with an A major, and then we go to C, and then we end in the key of G. This poem is basically, the whole theme of it is, if you've never experienced anything what we've been through, then you'll know how fine it is to be alive. These kids were still thankful that they even were alive. We ended this concert with a boy choir coming up on stage and singing the Shema Israel. The audience did interrupt applause right away. We had a moment of silence for those that died, for those women that died in Sumatra and those kids that died in Terezin, and my appropriate response to that was I bowed my head. I wish they didn't really skip that part, but in the video you will be able to see me bow my head down a little bit, so it was that emotional. Like, after we got off the stage, the ladies in my chamber choir were crying, and even my best friend, whose mom was in it, she had to leave early because the subject matter was way too dark. I'm just telling you, if you're gonna go watch this concert video, or if you're gonna listen to the piece on your own, just please have tissues because this is very dark subject matter. Number 1. This next concert is by far the greatest choir concert I've performed to date. And it is written by my favorite genius composer, J.S. Bach. And the 1818 declaration of that work was the greatest musical artwork of all times and of all peoples. And interestingly enough, this work was never performed during Bach's lifetime. Yes, I am telling you that number 1 is the Mass in B minor. Man, oh man, this was the pivotal point in my musical career. The first public performance did not even take place until 1859. Now, it has been performed for the first time ever in Moscow, Idaho. And the Mass contains some of his best written music ever. We begin with a world-famous fugue in the first Kyrie, Lord, have mercy, and we have that big introduction by the instruments. Once the choir opens with Kyrie eleison, the orchestra opens with a ritornello, which introduces the fugue, and then the tenors started off for us. It's very chromatic, and it can be difficult to sing, but it's all worth it. When you think about this first movement, you're thinking about all the things that you come to God for. Lord, have mercy on us, as you're looking around the entire church hall. You have the Gloria set as 9 Trinitarian movements with Domine Deus in the center. This is supposed to represent the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then we sing the Credo. We have my personal favorite movement, which is the Sanctus, which is next gone into Hosanna in Excelsis, and then the Benedictus, and then the Agnus Dei, and we conclude with the Dona Nobis Pacem. I want to highlight my personal favorite movement in the Mass in B minor, and that is the Sanctus. And it was actually the first movement written for the Mass, and it was composed in 1724 on Christmas Day. And I want to tell you how Bach glorifies God in this work. So he uses combinations of 3 throughout this piece, honoring the Holy Trinity. It's triplets, 3 oboes and 3 trumpets, 6-part choir, and it ends in a fugue in 3/8 time signature. And I'm talking about the Pleni Sunticelli fugue. And it was one of the hardest fugues. I had to sing along with Kyrie 1 and Singe dem Herrn Movement 1, which is another motet that I encourage you to listen to. And I will also point out that Agnus Dei is my favorite aria of the entire Mass, and it is sung by an alto soloist. And I do a cover of this song on my YouTube channel where I accompany myself on guitar and I also sing it for you. So I unfortunately was not able to perform it in this performance, but I was able to cover it on my YouTube channel here. When you think about this aria, you think about the Lamb of God that took away the sins of the world and to have mercy on us. That's what the alto soloist is telling us through song. And I want to tell you, Bach has definitely given some great solos by altos, because you're thinking like, oh, the sopranos always get the big moments. But I think Bach really highlights the alto voice very well in the entire Mass. Then we have the Et Incarnatus Est, which is in the middle of the Credo, and it was the last piece of music Bach ever composed before his death. So this was written in 1749. Bach was going blind, and he unfortunately passed away in 1750, and this was about a year after he completed the Mass. And some movements were reworkings of his other cantata choruses, such as Crucifixus and Dona Nobis Pacem, which are pretty much the two of the most famous movements in the entire Mass. I actually performed the prelude to the original version of the Dona Nobis Pacem, so it's the prelude of the original cantata, which is number 29. Crucifixus was borrowed from Weinen, Klagen, Sorgen, Sagen, which I just mentioned earlier, which was one of his early cantatas. He wrote this chorus right on top of a descending chromatic bass line theme, which pretty much repeats throughout the entire movement. If you think about this for a moment, if Bach has used his earlier works for the Mass and reworked them, that means Bach spent pretty much the majority of his life writing it. My first choir season with Cantus Firmus Chorale helped me respect Bach more as a composer. I have performed his works on guitar and choir for my entire music career. My first two classical guitar pieces were Bach. Now I respect him so much that I even have his seal tattooed on my right forearm. The Mass in B minor was also my second most streamed album of my Spotify Wrapped. It only lost to Clay Aiken's debut album, Measure of a Man, but that album is really good too. But the Mass in B minor is not good, it's glorious. And most importantly, it's God-honoring. I felt like I wasn't performing this concert. I mean, sure I was, but I was worshiping the one true God who created us in his image. So there you have it, guys. A choir season that was pivotal and was busy, but God-honoring at the same time. I still have with me the score that I used for the Mass in B minor performance, so I was able to buy this from Collegium Musicum of Moscow. And it contains the whole choir score and the orchestra parts in the bottom, as well as all the solos. So this has a special place in my heart. So there you go, guys. I was able to count down for you all the top 6 choir concerts of 2025. Like I said, I wanted to highlight this particular choir season, and same thing with last year. So if you're still around, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I hope you can take the time to check out these choir concerts. They were so much fun to be in, and it was an honor to be a part of. I encourage you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss anything from me. I hope you guys have a great, happy new year, and I hope to see what's in store for 2026. I'm looking forward to that very much. So Soli Deo Gloria, and see you around.